Please watch the video until the end. Every second matters, and the last moments change everything. Chapter 1, The Revival. They decorated the town like it would never forget how to celebrate again. Banners flapped between lampposts, hay bales formed makeshift seats, and stalls smoked with fried dough and spiced cider. I came as a local returning after 7 years away, a camera slung over my shoulder, out of habit more than intent. My name is Ethan Cole. I had been invited to document the revival, an annual harvest celebration revived by boosters who like to wink at old myths and make them profitable. There was a centerpiece everyone whispered about, an old parade float, a rusting contraption they called the Harrow cart, hauled out from a barn no one seemed to enter. They lacquered the panels, hung lights along its spine, and painted a face that looked more like a warning than decoration. The elders told story, not the exact one you might expect, but one shaped to fit a town that needed something macabre to sell to tourists. The Harrow cart had been tied to a string of disappearances decades ago. It was dismissed as folklore until the revival committee turned the tale into a spectacle. I was drawn to focus on the people, anxious teenagers, proud grandparents, a trio of amateur costumers who insisted the night felt authentic. I filmed smiles edged with suspicion, hands gripping paper cups, a drummer pounding like an anxious heart. I didn't notice the way the lights seemed hung in layers, as if to camouflage a darker depth below the carnival glow. Chapter 2, The First Toll. At the stroke of 9, when the mayor climbed onto the float to give a speech, the town bell, an old iron thing from a chapel, decided to toll. It struck once, a sound so small against the festival's din that most laughed it off. But then it tolled again and again, each strike deeper, more resonant, until the air itself seemed to thicken. You notice certain changes only after they have already begun. The laughter in the crowd frayed. Conversations stuttered and fell silent. Jelly-like shadows unspooled from the corners of the fairground and pooled beneath the Harrow cart. I kept filming because sometimes horror makes the edges of reality clearer when it is captured. Sometimes the camera is the only honest witness. A wind came that smelled faintly of oil and old paper. Lights flickered, and the lights around the cart dimmed to reveal seams in a metal that weren't there before, plates stitched together with fine, black wire, and between them, something like skin pulled taut over cold gears. A child pointed and screamed as something long and lacquered scraped across the top of the float with a wet sound. Chapter 3, The Harrower. They called it the Harrower, a moniker that fit because it harvested, only not crops. It moved like a parasite on a machine. A torso of stitched hides and stretched metal unfurled from the cart's belly, wing panels that scraped like doors. Its head wasn't animal nor entirely human. It was a mask of many mouths that opened and closed in a slow, ceremonial chewing. My friends Maya, Jonah, and Clara ran with me toward the exit. People streamed the other way, drawn as much by moth light as by fear, a tide of gasps and trampled announcements. The Harrower did not chase like a person. It marked like a collector. It extended a limb, not unlike a crane's arm, tipped with talons made from bent instruments. Each talon plucked at someone in the crowd with a mechanical precision, lifting and cradling them as if arranging antiques. When it took a person, it didn't crush. It catalogued. It hummed. The first person it took was not even 30 meters from me. He was an old man who sold apples. The Harrower lifted him by the jacket, turned him slowly until his eyes met mine. He looked like a man who had been asked to step into a photograph he did not want to be in. Then the creature opened a maw that sounded like pages being torn and began to feed, and his outline blurred into the contraption, as if he were being wound into gears. Chapter 4, The Underground. We ran to the old grain elevator, a squat place the revival committee admitted they couldn't knock down because it had history. The elevator's door jammed, and the Harrower found us through the gaps in the siding. Jonah tried to jam a plank across the door. It lifted the plank like a lid and peered in. It wasn't looking for flesh alone. It was tasting the noise, the fear, the stories being whispered in our veins. Inside the elevator, chaff the air tasted of dust and rust. I filmed as we crawled between conveyor belts and brittle sacks. My light trembled over a wall scratched with names. Names of the missing, carved by hands that wanted to be remembered. It hit me then that the Harrower didn't merely eat bodies, it ate remembrance. It stitched people into the machine to keep its memory alive, and in so doing it fed its hunger for the story of being feared. We found a narrow shaft that led beneath the fairground into a dry culvert where old wiring hummed like a nervous system. I thought if we could reach the main road, we could flag down a car, we could get help. I thought of every cliché of escape, and found each one was a lie the world tells itself to feel safe. Chapter 5. The Price of Looking Back. We were separated when the Harrower triggered something below ground. An old generator coughed to life, and the culvert flooded with an oil-scented mist. Clara was pulled into a side passage. I watched Jonah's hand slip from mine and vanish as if someone had erased the ink between two fingers. Maya screamed and dragged me along, but my feet moved like I had knots in my soles. I found Clara pinned between a wheel and a wall, eyes dumb with shock. She whispered story, one of those small, private tales you tell yourself at 3 a.m. to feel like yourself. The Harrower was interested. It leaned in, cocked its head like an ear, and then it moved away, satisfied for the moment. That was when I realized the creature wasn't indiscriminate. It collected stories, the kind that bind you to a place or someone else. The Harrower fed on the weight you carry that keeps your name in other people's mouths. I started thinking of my own ledger of memories, a mother's lullaby, the scrape of my father's boots, the scent of rain on a porch. The machine wanted an offering. I didn't know whether to guard my memories or unload them to survive. Chapter 6. The Unwinding. We made a plan that was more desperation than strategy. Lead the Harrower away from the main square and collapse the old iron bridge above its nest. If the cart was its heart, perhaps crushing the heart would stop the thing. We rigged a winch with a rusted chain and the skeletal remains of a vendor's sign. As we worked, the Harrower came at us with the deliberate patience of a storm. It attacked not by brute force, but by rearranging our trust, bringing back memories we held dear and twisting them. Jonah saw his sister's face reflected in the Harrower's metal. He froze and reached for it. I screamed his name, and he snapped back like someone waking from a dream. That tether saved him. Clara didn't have that tether. She had taken a secret into the elevator shaft years ago and had thought it dead. The Harrower found it like a bloodhound. In the end, it was less a victory than a reprieve. The bridge cracked and collapsed in a shower of splinters and iron. The Harrower thunked into the river of mud, and the cart's gears jammed. We thought it was over. We were wrong in the exact way you hope not to be. Wrong because the machine can sleep as easily as it can wake. The Harrower did not fight to free itself. It conserved. Chapter 7. Aftermath and Echoes. They closed the revival after that night. The town scraped off the reeds and boarded up the stalls. News vans came and left with footage that called our story a local tragedy with unexplained elements. I watched myself on a loop, my voice steady as I narrated in segments, the camera angles that hid what the eye still feels. Months later, I returned to the site alone to record a piece for myself. The harrow cart was gone. There was only a circle of crushed earth and a smell that clung to my coat. I wandered to the chapel, where the bell hung silent. Someone had rewired it and tied a note to its rope, "Do not ring." I didn't. Not out of respect, but because some laws of physics are really laws of human will. We are better at forgetting than admitting. I kept a small nail from the bridge, a black twist of metal. Sometimes in the deep nights when a house whispers and the light from the street wobbles, I can hear a distant scrap like metal shifting. I imagine it is the Harrower reassembling itself into parts the world will mistake for art or relics. I imagine it cataloging new names. I imagine it waiting for the next bell strike that will unify everyone under a single note. If you ask me what I learned, I'd say this: fear is a currency. The Harrower takes it and turns it into movement. To survive is to keep your story intact, to make sure someone else can recite your name. To forget is to be fed upon without protest. If this tale chilled you, please subscribe to the channel, activate notifications, give the video a like, comment with your thoughts, and share the video with friends who dare to listen.